World War III is a first-person shooter that follows a similar style to Battlefield, and it's free. Despite this, if you go on any of the game's social media platforms, it is a scene reminiscent of these games' launch, where some people have more fun dogpiling on the game than actually playing it, and I want to talk about why. But I also want to say that I genuinely like this game. Back when I was 12 to 13, I would have killed for a free game like this, because the gameplay, when you actually get to play it, is fun. It's like a diet Battlefield 4 on a smaller scale. I know some people might say, oh, just play Battlefield 4, but there are some unique game mechanics and elements that separate the games, and I would recommend you try it if you're willing to put up with these issues. But to understand why people are so up in arms, we need to go back to 2018, where the game released with a price tag of $28 and along with it numerous issues, the most notable being server issues and people not being able to connect. And you can imagine with the price tag like that, people gave up on the game and it saw dwindling player numbers for an extended period of time. And when Battlefield 2042 had its spectacular launch, this was a prime opportunity to try and make a comeback with a closed beta, because previously the game was regarded as a Battlefield killer, but in March 2022 they opened up the beta for people who are willing to spend money on it with various different packs. And personally, I was considering getting one of the more higher tier packs because I wasn't really aware of the game's history at that point, and from what I could play initially with the basic bitch starter tier package, I really liked the game and I was willing to invest more money into it, but I'm glad that I didn't. But I'd say from the time Battlefield 2042 was released and to the current day, this was a very crucial moment in the game's development, because they also had a free weekend, and you thought between this time period they would have ensured that those servers are functioning and are working when they do go free to play, because those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But I know I've said this in the past, that really all you have to lose is your time, especially if you didn't invest any money in it. But let's empathize with some people for a moment, because the game, it's great, the foundations are there, and I'm not gonna throw any shade towards the developers, but I am gonna throw shade towards the people at the top that are managing this project, because they literally have the foundations to a great game, but it's so mismanaged. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because it's so frustrating. Because the thing is, you can see where effort has been applied, but it's taken them 4 years and they still haven't sorted this issue out. On Twitter, which I've been blocked I can't believe I've been blocked on the Twitter. I think it was because of this meme, which I wasn't trying to be insulting. I just thought it was a little funny, but whatever. But they say they are aware of the issues and are trying to fix them, but they've had years to sort this out, which is why people are so upset. But what are these issues that they're aware of? So let's get you, an American with your fancy high-speed fiber internet, you can go ahead and try the game out right now. Heck, I dare you. I really dare you. It's free. What do you have to lose? I dare you. But you will encounter horrendous download speeds because people say they are using a peer-to-peer download system, so the 50 megabytes per second, or some of you said that you had like 500. I don't know how the fuck you get that, but you might have your fancy internet speed, but you're not gonna get that because it'll be less than 10. So it'll take at least a couple of hours to download the game, which is over 60 gigabytes, and you'll have to do this with their own launcher, which is absolutely stupid. The launcher is worse than Epic Games' launcher, and if I say that this launcher is worse than that, then that's really an achievement. But let's say you do manage to download the game. You waited a couple of hours and oh no, there is a queue, but there's only like 4,000 people in the queue, or less than that, which personally I don't really have an issue with waiting in queues, because if I want to play Squad or Hell Let Loose, I'm almost guaranteed to be waiting in one. But when you have a big launch like this and you don't want to fuck up like Battalion 1944 and not make enough service for people and they're just waiting in queues, it's going to frustrate people. But you wait a good 10 to 15 minutes in the queue, and when you launch the game, you are met with so many different kinds of issues where you can't input your username, it says you don't have enough funds, you'll get a user face error, you'll get error 53, and if you're like me who was able to actually overcome all these errors, you'd load into a server and the map wouldn't load, you play one game, you get booted back to the main menu and you won't be able to rejoin to a server. There's just so many issues, and this is the first impression that thousands of people were getting, and in the dev's case, potential customers, and it really does pain me because I don't want this game to die. die, and I'm going to explain why I really like this game. The game is broken down into two teams, East and West. I think you can input which that really means, but there isn't really anything that separates the two factions in the way the characters look, since you can customize your character to look and sound like both factions at the same time, especially since they intend on implementing a hero type mechanic later down the line, especially since they're going to be having a battle pass. But you do have an extensive amount of customization. Admittingly, some of the cosmetic items can be bought in the in-game store, which some people are a little conflicted with, since a lot of the items that are in there are stuff that was originally in the game but were removed so you can rebuy them with the in-game V-Bucks. But one thing I like is that you can really pimp out the way your weapon functions, but also the animations are really satisfying. But you also have a selection of different point streaks that you can use. Some are fairly overpowered. For instance, the various kinds of UAVs that basically give you wall hacks, but this can be countered by the Reaper, and these things are insane since it prevents anyone from spawning on people, and it can prevent people from calling in the point streaks if they are affected by it. So it's basically like an EMP from MW2, but you also have tanks which are similar to Battlefield. You have people camp and rack up an enormous amount of kills and they get accusated as a result, but hey, at least there's no attack helicopters, so people can't fly above Stinger and Igla distance and rack up a 150 kill streak and make you want to end your life. But you do have an attack helicopter drone, and the flying mechanics aren't that good. They can be a little bit of a pain, but I'm not going to say I didn't feel a sense of superiority flying in and around buildings and absolutely decimating people. A little complaint that I have is they don't sound the best. The buggies sound like a lawnmower, and apparently a while back the audio did get a bit of an overhaul, but vehicles can be easily countered by either using RPGs or calling a strike such as an anti-vehicle artillery strike on them. But when I was playing Hell Let Loose, I was shooting at a tank with my rifle and I got yelled at, rightfully so, but in this game you can knock out vision systems or disable secondary weaponry by shooting at them, so it makes you feel not as useless when there's a vehicle just decimating. But you have two game modes, and this is a criticism I have of the game because of the lack of variety. You have TDM and TAC Ops, which is similar to RS2 Supremacy, and people have claimed they've been put on the same map 3 to 4 times in a row, and I can't blame them for feeling fatigued because I got put on Warsaw a fair amount of times and I was over it. But the game looks good, and they use real world locations that are fairly accurate, and they've made it look like there's a real battlefield going on there. Hopefully doesn't become a reality, but you've got Berlin, Warsaw, Moscow, and Smolensk, and another one which I forgot the name of, but there is the prospect of a North Korea based map. Now, the maps have areas where each class of weapon can dominate at, but a criticism of this is that people have been playing this game for 4 years and they haven't actually introduced any new maps, excluding maybe Smolensk, but that was with the initial launch of the game. They took it out, reworked it, air quotes, and they reintroduced it as if it was new content, when in reality it was just recycled. And this goes for a lot of other aspects of the game. They haven't introduced over 4 years new things that would make someone come back, especially throughout the closed or open beta, whatever you want to call it, where I was playing. Once my rank got reset, I didn't really feel like doing it all over again because it's like, oh, you know, they haven't introduced anything new, nothing that makes me want to grind for something and be like, oh, I want to try this new thing out. Similar to in World of Tanks, how people just get bored of it until they introduce a new tank line and everyone tries to grind it because it's something new. It gets you back into the game, and that's what gets me back to playing World of Tanks, especially with the introduction of the Italian tank destroyers, which are fucking broken and overpowered. But in terms of speed of gameplay, I've heard people refer to this as a hardcore tactical shooter. It's not. It's just not. If the game works, ideally, it's a game you can hop in with a couple of mates, free of charge, so convincing them is easy, but you can enjoy some fast, high dopamine gameplay that is similar but different to Battlefield 4. And I say different because the movement is a lot more grounded and you aren't as fluid. There's a character weight system and you can't be jumping off buildings or out of jets and rendezvousing people. But also the emphasis is placed on teamwork because you won't win by running around and playing for kills. There isn't a ticket system, and the fastest way to win and unlock score streaks and level up is by playing the objective. But nonetheless, the foundations to a great game are there. It's just so mismanaged, and I know I always dick ride BattleBit, but when we look at them, they know that they they do not want to make the same mistake as World War III. I don't know if they're aware of this game or not, but that's why they are taking the server issues that BattleBit's encountering very seriously before they make the game publicly available to people. But nonetheless, I'm going to end today's video there, because if you did enjoy it, please do consider leaving a like, subscribing, and sharing the video with your friends. Anyways, my name is Tan2, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Oh shit, sorry.